In this video, let's talk about why long car rides cause sensory exhaustion and conflict for the ASD spouse. Imagine that you've been driving for 3 hours. The road noise hasn't stopped. The steering wheel has been vibrating beneath your hands. Sunlight keeps flashing between trees and reflecting off windshields. Cars are passing on both sides. A truck suddenly drifts towards your lane. Someone changes lanes without signaling. The GPS interrupts. Your passenger asks you a question. The air conditioner is blowing across your face. And then your passenger says something completely ordinary. "Are you okay? Is something wrong?" And the ASD spouse says, "No, nothing's wrong." Then the neurotypical spouse says again, "Are you sure? It seems like something wrong." And then the ASD spouse snaps, "I'm fine." Well, now the passenger is hurt. And then the NT spouse says, "What's your problem? I was just asking." And suddenly, an exhausting car ride has turned into a relationship conflict. So if you're autistic or you love someone who's autistic, this interaction can be badly misunderstood because what looks like irritability, anger, stubbornness, or even hostility is actually something very different. What's going on there is sensory exhaustion combined with executive depletion. And once we understand that, the entire highway meltdown starts looking different. Now, let's talk about how the car is not a neutral environment. No. Most people think of driving as sitting in a comfortable seat and moving from one location to another. Okay, but neurologically, driving is anything but passive. Your brain is continuously processing enormous amounts of information. Where is the car in front of me? How fast am I going? What's happening in my mirror? Is that vehicle going to merge? What's the speed limit? Where's my exit? Did that brake light just come on? Meanwhile, your nervous system is processing the physical environment of the car. The vibration of the road, the hum of the tires, engine noise, wind noise, temperature, airflow, glare, sunlight, movement in your peripheral vision, the pressure of the seat against your body. Now, for most autistic people, the brain doesn't automatically push all of this information into the background. The nervous system often continues to register it, minute by minute, hour by hour, and that creates something I want you to think of as a sensory tax. Every mile costs a little bit of neurological energy. At first, you can afford it, yeah, but eventually, the account starts getting low. Now let's talk about why highway driving can put the nervous system on high alert. There's another problem here. Traffic is unpredictable, and unpredictability is expensive for an autistic nervous system. You don't know when somebody's going to cut you off. You don't know when traffic will suddenly slow down. You don't know when construction will force you into another lane. You don't know when the GPS will reroute you. So the brain begins predicting, watching, scanning, preparing, and this can create a state of ongoing neurological vigilance. The body may be sitting in the car seat, but the nervous system is essentially saying, "Oh, stay alert. Something could change at any moment." That doesn't necessarily mean the autistic person consciously feels afraid. They're simply becoming increasingly tense, quiet, rigid, irritable, or mentally exhausted. And this is where couples can get into trouble because the passenger sees the behavior. They don't see the neurological load underneath it. Now let's talk about when executive function starts running out of fuel. Driving requires constant decision-making. Maintain speed, monitor distance, ignore irrelevant information, remember directions, shift attention, predict what others might do, correct mistakes, make rapid decisions, control emotional reactions. All of those processes require executive resources, and those resources aren't unlimited. After several hours of driving, the autistic partner may still be perfectly capable of operating the vehicle safely while having dramatically fewer resources available for everyone else, including conversation with you. And that's incredibly important. The NT spouse may say, "Okay, well, what would you like for dinner later?" To the NT spouse, that seems like a simple question. To an overloaded brain, it can feel like someone just handed you another problem to solve. Now you have to stop monitoring traffic enough to imagine restaurants, consider preferences, compare options, estimate arrival times, make a decision, and communicate it. So the ASD driver says, "I don't care, just pick something." And here we go again. The NT passenger hears rejection, but the driver's nervous system is actually saying, "I don't have enough processing capacity left to answer another damn question." Those are two completely different interpretations. Now let's talk about what I'm going to call the pressure cooker effect. There's also something unique about conflict inside a car. You can't easily leave. At home, somebody can walk into the other room or walk out the front door and leave. They can take a shower, they can go to their man cave or woman cave. They have the ability to reduce stimulation. But inside a moving vehicle, you're trapped. and you're trapped together in a small sensory environment. That's why relatively minor disagreements can escalate surprisingly quickly during long drives. One person becomes overwhelmed and withdraws. The other person notices the withdrawal and tries to reconnect. What's wrong? Nothing. Yeah, but you seem upset. I am not upset. You're obviously upset. Can you just stop talking right now? Now the passenger feels the shutout, so they may push harder. And the overloaded driver experiences the additional conversation as another source of stress and stimulation. The more one partner pursues connection, the more the other needs to reduce input. The more the overloaded partner withdraws, the more rejected the other partner feels. Now you've got a neurological problem becoming a relationship problem. Now let's talk about this. Reframe the behavior before you react to it. This is another shift I want both partners to practice. Instead of immediately saying, "Why are you acting like this?" ask, "What might this nervous system be dealing with right now?" That question changes everything. It doesn't mean rude behavior suddenly becomes acceptable. No. Sensory overload is an explanation. It's not a free pass to mistreat somebody. But if you identify the correct cause, you can choose a much better intervention because you can't argue someone out of a neurological overload. You have to reduce the load. So let's talk about how to create a sensory-friendly driving plan. Before a long trip, talk about regulation before anybody becomes overwhelmed. For example, the autistic partner could say, if I get really quiet after a couple of hours, I'm probably overloaded. I'm not really angry with you. If it seems like I'm being distant or ignoring you, I'm just kind of wrapped up in my thoughts. That one sentence can prevent an enormous amount of misunderstanding. Then look at the physical environment. Could sunglasses reduce glare? Could the temperature be adjusted? Could music be turned down or turned off? Would limiting conversation during difficult traffic help? Would a quieter route be worth an extra 15 minutes? Would planned breaks every 90 minutes or so help the nervous system reset? And here's one of the simplest strategies. Stop before you desperately need to stop. Don't wait until the autistic nervous system is a 9 out of 10. Take a break when it hits 5. Get out, walk, stretch, drink something, use the restrooms, stand somewhere quiet. Let the eyes focus on something that isn't racing past you at 80 miles an hour. 10 or 15 minutes of regulation can prevent the next 3 hours of conflict. Now, let's talk about how to create a communication rule for overload in the car. Couples can also develop a simple phrase that means, "My processing capacity is getting low. This isn't about you." And that phrase could be as simple as, "I'm just going to let you know I'm getting overloaded." Or, "I need quiet mode." Or, "Yellow light," which means caution. The exact words don't matter. What matters is that both people know what that means. Yellow light doesn't mean leave me alone because I'm angry with you. It means my nervous system is approaching its limit, so please help me reduce input before I lose my ability to communicate very well. That's teamwork. And for the neurotypical partner, there's an equally important skill. Don't automatically personalize the change in tone. Sometimes the tone isn't information about the relationship, it's information about the nervous system. Now, let's talk about catch it early. The goal here isn't to become better at recovering from highway meltdowns. The goal is to recognize the neurological collision before the meltdown happens. Many autistic drivers start gripping the steering wheel harder. Their answers become shorter and snappier. Maybe conversations stop altogether. Little small noises suddenly become very irritating. Making decisions gets harder. Getting lost becomes easier. Maybe there's some urgency of we got to get there faster or we're going to be late. Those are all warning signs. And instead of saying, "Why are you getting so grouchy?" try, "You seem like you're getting overloaded. Would you like some quiet time or a break?" That question right there can completely change the trajectory of the next 90 minutes because now you're not fighting each other. You're working together against overload. And that's the larger lesson here. When an autistic person struggles during a long car ride, what looks like a behavioral problem is actually a nervous system trying to desperately regulate itself under relentless stimulation. The vibration matters. The glare matters. The noise matters. The traffic matters. The unpredictability matters. The executive demands matter. And when we recognize those invisible stressors, guess what? We stop interpreting every difficult moment as a character problem or a relationship problem. Sometimes the person beside you isn't angry at you. The nervous system is simply saying, I've processed so much, I need less. And learning to hear that message earlier can turn a highway pressure cooker into something very different, which would be a couple who understands what's happening, who recognizes the warning signs, and who reduces the sensory load and gets back on the road as a team. Please like, subscribe. See you tomorrow. Would you like to schedule a paid private coaching session? This will be in the form of a face-to-face Zoom call. Underneath any of my videos, you'll see this Calendly link. If you click on that link, it'll open up my calendar. You can pick the available days and times that works for your schedule, and I will be available on that exact day and time, and we will talk.